Hi, I'm Bob Vila. Welcome home again. In real time, it's day 2 of our Blitz build here in Yonkers, New York.
Saturated.
We'll be up on the scaffolding using Smart System engineered wood products for the fascia and trim. Bon Jovi's Tico Torres volunteers his carpentry expertise to put overlaid plywood on the porch ceiling. Also, we'll visit the Simpson overlaid plywood mill in Shelton, Washington. And back here, Ryley installs a window in the living room.
Tilt out, it just swings right down.
So stick around. It's good to have you home again.
Sears presents Bob Vila's Home Again.
Here we get another look at the roof beam for our house in Yonkers, New York. Let's talk about the roof in this Habitat for Humanity house for a minute. On day 1 of the Blitz build, we craned this 850-pound glue laminated roof beam into position. Then we started to attach the roof panels. Now the roof, like the rest of the house, is constructed from SIPs, or structural insulated panels. These panels are a sandwich of oriented strand board and rigid insulation. If you look at this roof, you can see that there are no rafters. The SIPs panels provide all the structural support, insulation, and sheathing in one package.
Can be a little bit high because it's easier to bang it down than go up. Now I want your bottom to go in. Get it in now if you can. Yeah, but it's easy to shove it down. Look up.
Steve Thompson from Premier Wall Systems directs the crew lifting the roof panels.
I'm about a foot up. 6 inches now. Oh, you are good. Okay, watch your head right above you.
The panels are craned into position. They're tacked in place with nails. Then they're screwed down with long, tempered screws that extend through the sandwich of OSB and insulation all the way to the wall sill or roof beam. Let's watch these guys fly with the rest of the roof panels.
Okay, I'm coming down. Okay. Okay, Bob, you gotta come up towards me here.
Once the last panel is screwed down, comes the moment of truth. All of the prefabricated pieces of the house fit together perfectly, and the house is enclosed from the weather.
Working. That's it. Nice. Oh, we're gonna fit nice. Okay, Bob, I like it. Nail it. Go ahead and slam in a couple of. Nail it.
As night falls on day 1 of the Blitz build, the exterior of the house is being covered with gypsum board. This is required by the local fire codes. The gypsum board is then covered with house wrap. Overnight, a crew of carpenters gets started framing the front porch. By the morning, it's real-time day 2 of the Blitz build, and work continues on the front porch framing. The volunteer carpenters start another day of hard work. Now we're ready to get up on the scaffolding and get to work on the roof trim. Okay, we're looking at the OSB oriented strand board sheathing on the roof, but right now we're getting together with Dave Probst from Louisiana Pacific, who's going to tell us a little bit about the engineered wood products that are being used for the trim, right?
Yes, thank you, Bob. What this is the part of the family of Smart System products. What we're looking at is a Smart Fascia. What we'll be installing after this is the Smart Trim.
Now, a fascia is an architectural term for the piece of pine that's used to trim the rafter ends or the end of the roof.
Gives it the nice finished look.
And traditionally you just do that with pine, but now this is a product that's really 21st century, right?
Right. This is an engineered product, Bob. Basically what we've done is this is a treated engineered wood. The substrate has been treated with a Smart Guard process, which what that does is it integrates a zinc borate into the blended wafers of aspen, making the substrate. And then what we do...
So the substrate is more like what we're looking at up here. as opposed to something like a chipboard that's made out of sawdust.
Right, but actually we use a little bit different binder, a rubinate binder, which is a much more strong adhesive, which complements the product. What we've also done is we've given it a resin-saturated paper overlay, Bob.
So is that how you get this texture so that it looks almost like weathered wood?
If you see that it's a beautifully embossed appearance, and it's primed, and you see the cedar texture, and it makes for a very, very paintable surface.
Yeah, it nails nicely. You can tell just from listening to how the hammer goes in there, you know?
That's right.
So on the bottom of this, what ordinarily is called the planchard, you're using a similar product, right?
And here in the open soffit, what we've done is we've taken a 7/16 by 4x8 smart soffit, which has the same technology, the same smart guard treatment process, which provides for an antifungal and resists against wood-boring insects. So, and this also has the paper overlay, which gives it that very paintable surface. So it's an engineered product that's done quite well.
Yeah, and then once they've got that nailed in place,
then we're gonna go ahead and install a trim piece or for an accent piece. Looks like it's going to be a 1x6. The trim and fascia come in a 5/4 and a 4/4, 3-inch to 12-inch in width. So we have a full line of accent pieces.
well, thanks, Dave. We're probably going to see this finished later, but this is the next piece that goes up here, which, as you say, is
It's the trim, smart trim.
And of course, it comes pre-finished. But right now, we're going to go down to the front porch and talk about a different product that's being installed as a ceiling. And actually, we've got a guest down there who used to be a musician. Come on. Tico Torres is actually the drummer with the John Bon Jovi band who's volunteering.
Bob. Nice to see you.
Good to see you. So you're a carpenter, you're in your heart, you're a carpenter, right?
Yeah, I started when I was a kid. I love working with wood, and
Yeah.
being a drummer, I always worked with the wood.
You're working with wood and you're working with your hands, you
With
said.
my hands, yeah.
Well, thanks for coming
we're
out.
putting this up here right now.
Yeah, and Lisa LaFrance is here from the APA Engineered Wood Association to tell us about MDO, which is what we're using here, right?
What we are installing as our porch ceiling is a plywood panel that has an overlay on it. It's a traditional sheet of plywood that we're used to seeing on our floor deck.
Yeah.
This really shows the versatility of a plywood panel. This is a resin-treated fiber overlay, both faces of this plywood. And what this does for us is going to give us a very smooth, paintable surface for this porch ceiling.
Well, in fact, I first heard about this stuff, it was called signboard.
That's true. It is still used for signs, many different applications, and this really is to demonstrate how the different uses of plywood come into play, all different parts of construction, as well as, like you said, signs.
Well, I think it's a great choice for a situation like this where it's exterior, but it's really, out of the weather.
Right. This panel, this plywood, is rated to be an exterior exposure durability.
So it can be out in the weather?
Correct. Yeah. It is manufactured with waterproof adhesives. It has an exterior exposure durability. It is very capable of living outdoors like this. And of course, we will give it a finished paint surface to protect it further.
Right.
What these guys are doing here is putting up the actual ceiling, and demonstrate how the finished look is going to be, we will show this piece covering all the panel joints.
So we'll put down about a 2-inch batten.
Exactly, it's a 2-inch batten, cover all of the panel joints. What we've done here is lined up all the panel joints so that we can have a continuous trim board, versus when we put it down on a floor deck or a roof deck, we stagger the panel joints for stability.
All right. Well, it's going to be a very appropriate job, I think. Thanks a lot. Nice to see you, fellas.
Right. That looks good. Great.
When we come back, we'll be at the Simpson Overlaid Plywood Mill in Shelton, Washington. We're just outside of the town of Shelton, Washington State, about 50 miles across Puget Sound from Seattle. And this is the Simpson plywood plant down below. We're going to be touring the plant in a minute with Jim Langenberg, who's the production manager. This is where they make the MDO, medium density overlay plywood, that we've just been using in the porch ceiling. Let's go. So, Jim, we're out here in the yard, and most of the lumber that I think of as being used with plywood is Douglas fir. Is that true?
That's basically true at this particular plant. We run around 65% Douglas fir, The remaining is hemlock and white firs.
Why is it? Because that's what's most common and most available?
Well, that's a large part of it, but it's also because of the strength characteristics and also the grade requirements that we use in our high-end products here at the plant.
Okay, so here what we've got is all this lumber arriving either by truck or by railroad or by water, right?
That's true.
Holy moly, look at this thing. What do you call that machine?
That's a Wagner. It's better known as a large log loader. It picks up a train load or a log truck load of logs at a time.
All at a time?
All at one time.
So where's he gonna dump them now?
What he's going to do, he's going to put them up here on the end feed to our debarker. This is where we remove the bark from the logs. We happen to have a 60-inch ring, so that means it'll take a 60-inch diameter all the way down to a 6-inch diameter.
Do you ever get a Douglas fir that gets that big, 5 feet in diameter?
No longer, no. Our average diameter log is around 10 inches. On occasion, we'll get one that's 30-inch in diameter, a second growth.
Right. Look at that thing just get up there and drop them into place, huh? So the debarking operation essentially is the first step. What happens next once they go through and get all the bark peeled off of them?
From there, it goes through our saws. We have two 60-inch diameter saws that then cut the logs into 8-foot multiples. We actually cut them a half a foot longer, make 4x8 plywood.
Of course, yeah, that's the kind of universal dimension for plywood sheets. And then after it's been put through the trimming, what's the next step?
From there, we take it to the log vaults and condition the log for peeling.
So Jim, what's the point of putting the logs into these steam vaults?
What we're actually doing is conditioning the log so we can peel it easier and get a much higher recovery.
All right, because you're going to peel it in a veneering operation. What actually happens in there? How long do they have to be in there?
They stay in there approximately an hour per inch of diameter, or an average of 10 hours under 180-degree water.
So you're spraying them the whole time?
We're spraying them from above.
So it isn't just steam. Okay, so that softens it up and then it goes into a veneering process?
It goes to our lathe line where we have a charger that puts it through computers into a cylinder as quickly as possible for recovery benefits, peel into veneers.
So what you're doing with all those computers is maximizing the yield from each log.
That's correct, Bob.
I hear. And then how does the veneering process actually work? Are there big blades associated with it?
It's actually a knife on a carriage, and the carriage feeds in while it's turning, then it peels the veneer off.
So Jim, what's happening at this point? What does this machine do?
Well, what we have after we have dried the veneer and graded it, the cream of the crop comes to here. We call these pluggers. We select out material that is defect-free, cut it into these strips, and they go through here that has a die to plug out the knots and the knot holes, and it ends up like a football patch.
So any little knots are removed in this operation, and there's a die there that just immediately puts it in place.
Right. Then we use these as high-grade interplies or faces under the MDO faces.
Then where does it go from here?
From here, it goes to layup. And what we do in layup is we take veneers to make a piece of plywood, and it takes several layers of veneer to make that piece of plywood.
And of course, you're reversing the grain direction, right?
Reversing the grain direction for strength and applying a phenolic glue made out of phenolic resins and wheat flours and bark dust and so forth. Then we put it into the hot press under temperature and pressure and for a certain amount of time for thickness. And when it comes out the back, it's a piece of plywood ready to go, except for being trimmed.
Now, Jim, one of the things everybody loves about working with plywood has to do with the precision, the factory edge. You can count on getting a straight edge. How do you do that here in the manufacturing process?
That's very important to us. So when we run it through the saws and cut it to dimension, we check with a tape at least once every 2 hours or every product change to make sure it is square and it's also within grade through visual inspection.
Fabulous. And then I guess the thing that everybody loves about the MDO is its paintability. I mean, this stuff originally was used primarily for signboards, and now it's really become a very popular building product, both inside and outside of the home. What is it about the surface on the plywood that makes it grab and grip the paint so well?
Well, first of all, it's made out of phenolic resins that are impregnated into the paper.
Yeah.
And then it makes it extremely watertight. It holds the paint and it makes the coverage extremely smooth. It's very tight so it doesn't absorb a lot of paint inside it, so your paint costs, your maintenance costs, and everything is much lower.
That's a good point. And does it matter whether you're using latex or oil-based paints?
Either one works just fine on the product.
Great. Well, Jim, thanks for the tour.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay. Coming up next, Ryley installs a thermoclad window in the living room. Stick around. We're back at our Yonkers, New York Blitz build, and a group of volunteers is at work painting the interior trim. They're working in a staging area across the street from the house. Here, there's plenty of room to set out the finished pieces to dry. Back at the house, carpenters are almost finished covering the building with house wrap. It's just stapled in place before the siding goes on. But first, let's check in with Ryley. He's ready to install a window on the first floor.
So we have Bill Warren here with us, who's going to help us put these windows in. But before we could put the windows in, the first thing we had to do, because of the area that we're in here in New York, they required us to put on this 5/8 fire-coated drywall because of their fire requirements. We're putting in these thermoclad windows. There's 3 different types that we're putting on the building. This is a double hung here. We're also going to be putting on awnings and casement windows. But we're ready to go ahead and put this one in, aren't we, Bill? Okay. So what do we want to do?
Lean it out and pick up by the vertical post down there.
Okay.
Set the sill in, down on the bottom.
Is that going to go to you a little bit?
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it in there? Okay. And we'll let it set. Gonna have a guy inside check the reveal to make sure that both sides are equal.
Okay.
And then once he gets that set, we'll check for plumb.
All right.
You okay? All right, so let's put the level up on this side and see if the window's plumb.
Yeah, I'll let you do that.
Okay. And it looks real good. So let's go ahead and nail the top.
And we're going to nail these with stainless steel nails.
Correct. They're just a tab nail. There's holes provided by the manufacturer. You just want to make sure that you push the window in so it's tight against the framing.
It's once we apply this window, we're going to be putting trim around the whole thing, and then that's when we'll be bringing our sidewall to the trim. Okay, well that gets this side, and on the inside there's some really interesting features to this window. The first of which I like is it has a modified J-bead here, which is going to receive the drywall when it's hung. It just slips right into place like that, and that's the finish. Another thing about this that I like is it has this easy tilt out. It just swings right down for easy cleaning. So that's some really nice features. And that looks great out there, Bill.
Looks good here.
We'll be back in a moment with a preview of our next show, so don't go away. That's a wrap for today. Come home again next time when we'll continue with Real Time Day 2 of our Habitat for Humanity Blitz build. Ryley will be up on the roof installing the roof shingles. We'll be using an architectural shingle that has a dimensional design. And I'll be on the roof of the storage shed to help install some special photovoltaic shingles that generate electricity from solar energy. Also, we'll take you to Arizona to see how the photovoltaic panels are manufactured. Till then, I'm Bob Vila. It's good to have you home again. For lots of information and resources for your home improvement project, check out my website at bobvila.com.